Hello and welcome to Spread Book Joy and a reading ramble. If you're new to the channel, I'm Jack. If you're not new, welcome back to Spread Book Joy. And this will be the first of what I'm now calling my reading rambles, because I'm going to talk about a kind of reading update, wrap up, plans, just general chat about books, because as you know, I'm always talking rambling nonsense, so I thought reading ramble, nice bit of alliteration. So yeah, I'm going to call these videos reading rambles, and they might not be monthly, they might be every few weeks, or just when I feel like it. So some people do Friday reads and some people do monthly wrap-ups, TBRs, etc. So to go along with my theme of no plan, which by the way, I mentioned no plan in my 2021 planning video, and that term I get from Wendy Robinson, whose channel is The Unexpected Gypsy. I absolutely love her. So the no plan, that's where I get that phrase from. But yeah, in keeping up with my no plan, I'm going to try and just enjoy my social media, which includes Instagram and YouTube, and being a bit more spontaneous. So yeah, that's why reading ramble suits me, because it could be about anything. Reading plans, reading things I've done, thoughts I'm having on reading. So yeah, got a cup of tea, and one thing I wanted to point out as well is I want to thank everyone that's recently subscribed to me, because I've hit 500 subscribers, which is brilliant. It's a massive achievement. One thing that's really brilliant of it is apparently it unlocks community posts, which is really great, because I'm taking a bit more of a relaxed attitude towards my social media posting and my YouTube posting, in that if I don't have a video prepped and ready and I don't have time, particularly in the winter when you've only got a certain amount of time during the day to film. So for instance, I'm filming now on Sunday at 3 PM and it's getting dark already. And lighting, I don't like nighttime lighting and ring lights and things like that, because they shine off my glasses. So I'm really kind of restricted. And so last weekend I decided to spend time with family and friends, so that's what I did. So yeah, I'm kind of prioritizing reading and people over everything else at the moment, and yeah, why not? I also want to be a bit more spontaneous, like I said. So community posts will help me the weekends when I'm not posting, to just pop a community post up to let people know what I'm doing, you know, that I've completely disappeared. So getting to 500 subscribers is wonderful. Yeah, I'm thrilled. So if you've just joined this recently, welcome, thank you for subscribing, and hopefully you'll enjoy my rambling content. So on with the ramble. So I started the year reading a number of things. I'm continuing to read War and Peace. A very brief update on why I haven't done a video on War and Peace yet. I am still ploughing my way through it. I started this at the beginning of November. It was a 10-week read along hosted over on Instagram by the wonderful Anna, who I will link her account down below, who is a person who sort of inspired me to read Tolstoy and feel that it was accessible to me. And it is extremely accessible. It's very readable. This translation by Anthony Briggs. And I had wanted to document my journey with this on YouTube, so that I've got a record of my thoughts, because it's a very long book and I didn't want to leave it all the way to the end before I did a video on it. But the first, I thought I'd do a video at the end of each volume, and there are 5 volumes in War and Peace. I'm about 60 pages off the end of volume 2 now. I've yet to do an update, because when I finished volume 1 was during my period in December when I had lost my voice and all sorts of things, so I couldn't really post a video about it. So I am going to post one when I've finished volume 2, my thoughts on the story, the characters, my enjoyment of it so far. And one thing I would say is I'm reading quite slowly, so I'm okay with not finishing this book really quickly, because I don't want this to be the only thing that I read. I read War and Peace in the mornings when I'm most alert, because in the evening, my evening reading needs to be much more relaxed and leisurely. So yeah, I need to concentrate on War and Peace, not because it's difficult to follow, because like I said, it's very accessible, but there are a lot of characters, there are a lot of themes, a lot of things, and I really want to digest it and think about it a bit more. So yeah, 20 minutes a day. I worked out, I did my reading speed, how long it takes me, what I can read in 5 minutes for War and Peace, and I calculated that without annotating, it will take me another 60 days to finish War and Peace if I manage to read 20 minutes every day, and I'm not managing to read 20 minutes every single day. So I'm going to be reading this for the next few months, which is fine by me. And it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And yeah, I'll finish it, and I'll read a lot of other lovely books alongside it. So that's where I am with that. I was also reading The Parable of the Talents, which is the second book in a duology by Octavia E. Butler. It's dystopian fiction. The Parable of the Sower was one of my favourite books last year. I read it at the end of last year in December, and I immediately got The Parable of the Talents to read, which is the second book and the final book. And I was reading it and noticed that actually I was feeling quite depressed reading it. I like dystopian fiction a lot, and I don't normally struggle with difficult content, but I was going to bed because I read War and Peace in the mornings, and in the evenings and going to bed I like to read books that don't tax me as much mentally. I want to read when I'm going to bed. So I was reading that, and every time I picked it up I just suddenly realised that I was getting more and more down reading this book, and some things were going on in it. There's content warning for this book, content warnings galore for this book, and there were things happening in it which were just depressing me, and I realised they were depressing me because sometimes it takes me a while to tune into my feelings. And then I was like, why am I reading this? It's January, it's depressing. So I've DNF'd it for now, and I've created a DNF for now tag on Storygraph. I'm going to do an update on Storygraph and Goodreads when I've been using them a bit more, but so far I'm enjoying it. It does have some differences, but you can still follow me on Goodreads. You can't follow me on Storygraph, I'm afraid, because I'm making that private, because I want a private record of my ratings. I don't rate for everybody else, so I'm going to be recording my reading on Goodreads. I'm not going to be recording any ratings on Goodreads, but you can follow what I'm reading on Goodreads and we can be friends on Goodreads, that's fine. But Storygraph, I kind of want it to be a personal place, because I rate books, and I'm going to do the ratings and reviews tag. I rate books for me, for my memory, because my memory's terrible, and I'm going to use Storygraph for rating books, and I don't want anyone to see those ratings because they're not for anybody but me. So anyway, I digress. So I DNF'd that for now. The other book that I DNF'd for now, I started, was The Deathless Girls by Kiran, Millwood, Hargrave, and for similar reasons. So I'm going to go back to it because I really want to read it, and I wasn't enjoying is the wrong word here. I know I will like the book and I will appreciate the book and enjoy it, but again, there were some themes in here, content warnings to do with, you know, well, I'll put the trigger warnings in my at the bottom of my description box, because I know for some people, and I'm one of them, content and trigger warnings are spoilers, and I don't want to spoil the book. So if you want the trigger warnings, the content warnings for this and for Parable of the Talents, I'll put them right at the bottom of my description box. But similar content reasons, I DNF this because I'm just not in the mood for it in January. What I did go on to read, which ended up being my first finished book of 2022, and I absolutely loved, and it was perfect, complete antidote to what was happening with those other books, which were much more gloom and doom, was Anne of Green Gables. This is my gorgeous second-hand copy I found in a second-hand shop, a Reader's Digest edition, old Reader's Digest edition, and it's illustrated, and I absolutely love this. But I listened to it as well, the Rachel McAdams narrated version on Audible, which brilliantly narrated by Rachel McAdams. And I read this book countless times since I was a child, and I love it, and I get something different out of it every time. Just an appreciation of the beauty of her writing, of her characterization, of L.M. Montgomery's ability to make a book that has so much depth to it, but that is accessible for a child to enjoy. And I've read it alongside the most amazing group. It's being hosted, there's an Anne along, it's called, being hosted by Emily over at Novell Novels, which I'll put a link to her announcement video if you want to join the group, please do. We've got a group on Voxer of the most wonderful booktubers reading a book from the series, one a month, starting with Anne of Green Gables. And interestingly, when I started it, I thought, I've read this so many times, I know I'm going to enjoy it, it's just going to be a nice comfort read for me after all the gloom and doom of the dystopian fiction that I was reading and the Deathless Girls. and it's turned out to be far more rewarding than just a comfort read for me. The group have really leveled up the experience of reading this wonderful, wonderful book for me. I'm going to do a video on it, so I won't talk about it much more, but yeah, amazing. I had so many emotions reading this, that I've always had emotions reading it, but I think this was the strongest I've ever felt them, and that was down to the experiencing it alongside this wonderful group. I don't do well in big group reads. I kind of decided at the end of last year I didn't really want to participate in big group reads that much, because I often feel intimidated and I don't really want to give my real thoughts. I often feel like, even when I do, that my voice is lost in group reads, so I don't find them as rewarding as, say, a buddy read. But this group is amazing. Thank you all, you know who you are if you're watching this, for making this such a great experience, and I cannot wait to read the rest of the books with you. This I'll do a review on it. But yeah, if you like Anne of Green Gables, if you've never, and I've never read any of the other books. I did read Anne of Avonlea when I was younger, but I've forgotten it, so it's like a fresh read for me. So I'm really looking forward to the rest of this reading experience this year. Yesterday I finished Pet by Akwaeke Emezi. Akwaeke Emezi is an author I've wanted to read for a long time, and was one of the authors on, I think, Scott and Nell's Gunpowder Fiction Plots Best of 2021 list. I don't think it was the book that I read, which was Pet, but Akwaeke Emezi is an author I've wanted to read for a while, and Pet is a YA novel all about a girl called Jam, and Jam's a very interesting character, and Jam lives in an alternate reality where they had lived alongside what she calls throughout monsters, and these monsters have been defeated by people in her community that she calls angels, and that are known as angels, I should say. And actually the themes about what a monster is and what monsters and angels look like, and actually they can look like anything. So the idea that you can't judge anyone just by the way that by their appearance, or by how they project themselves to you. You're not seeing the real them necessarily. So it was a really fascinating book, really well written, and I raced through it, and it was very short, so I finished that off yesterday. And I only read that because it came up on my Libby app. So after I watched tons and tons of best of 2021 videos, I raced through Libby and Scribd and all of the apps where looked on Kindle Unlimited, looked on Audible, because I'm trying not to spend a load of money on books this year. I definitely can't buy any more physical books. As you can see, I've cleared all my physical books from the shelf behind me because we're trying to sell our house. So I'm trying not to fill the house up with even more physical books, which are now packed into every single cupboard because I wouldn't let my partner put them in the loft because I wanted access to them. But our shelves have been cleared and tidied, and they're no longer stacked, 3 deep. I had books double and triple parked on my shelves and shoved in everywhere, and I had a whole set of my middle grade behind me here, but they're all gone now into cupboards. So I can't buy loads of books, but I was so inspired by all of the best of 2021 videos out there that I made a list, and I've written down who recommended what so that I can shout out whoever I got the recommendation from. I made a list, and I basically went on and put a load on hold on the library app because I couldn't find them on any of the sort of free services or subscription services, not free services, but the subscription services that I belong to. So, but I am allowing myself to buy the odd Kindle book. So I'm trying not to spend a lot of money on books in general because I just don't have it at the moment, which is one of the reasons why we want to move, because it's just becoming increasingly too expensive for us to stay here. So but I have got a little savings pot of money and a little bit of money I got for Christmas that I'm keeping. So I feel that those books that were recommended by fellow booktubers as their best of last year are worth a purchase. So if I can't find them on Libby, and I put holds on loads of them at the library app, or find them on Scribd, then yeah. But what I need to do then, and this is where the wiggle room for my no plan comes into play, if a book becomes available on Libby, my book on hold appears in Libby, I'm going to have to read it because I only have a certain amount of time to read it, and some books you have to wait months for. But Pet I put a hold on a while ago because I wanted to read something by Akwaeke Emezi for ages, and it didn't disappoint. I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to more by that author. So the next book that I am going to gush about, that I absolutely loved, and I've listened to multiple times since discovering it, and it was recommended by MJ over at Reading This Life. Go and check her channel out. She's a recently new booktuber who has less than 100 subscribers currently, so please go over and watch her. She's wonderful. Subscribe to her, support her. She recommended the audiobook of one of my favourite picture books. I was like, I didn't know it was an audiobook. And she recommended it because she found it really helpful, like a real kind of mindful meditative experience. And that is, I don't know if I've never sort of mentioned this book on here because it's so well known at the moment, but The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse, which is one of the most beautiful picture books of the last few years and most important picture books of the last few years. It's stunning, really beautiful book full of amazing illustrations and things to ponder over and little messages about life. That one. So the audiobook just took this and elevated it to another level. And as someone who's constantly seeking out calming music and sort of, I love those ASMR videos, not the talky ones because they freak me out, but the ones that are, you know, Hogwarts or, you know, calming, like rainstorm in a cozy tree house or that kind of thing. I'm constantly seeking out audio like that to listen to at night when I can't really sleep. And this book, brilliant. Charles Mackesy, who is the author, he narrates it, and he's got a very meditative voice, and interspersed with the story it's music that was composed for it and nature sounds and occasional silences, and it's an hour long. I've listened to it about 5 times now and I love it, and the more I've heard it, the more I listen to it, the more calming I find it. So yeah, I can't recommend that more highly, and thank you MJ for that recommendation. So some other things coming up now, plans I've got. I'm going to be taking part in the group read of Equal Rites, which is the 3rd Discworld book. It's a reread for me. I've read it multiple times, and it's being hosted by Kevy from Say Kevy, Katya from Read Write Create, Rosie Cockshut and Scott from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, and they had their first live stream video to kick off the read along on, it was 11 PM UK time on Friday night. I didn't get to watch it because I was in bed, but I'm really hoping to take part in the final discussion video. There is a Discord. I'm terrible at Discord. I'm going to try and jump on Discord when I've started reading it. I'm going to start it today because it's Sunday. I'm going to get a bit of time to eat cake and read. So Equal Rites, I'm looking forward to that. I'm also going to be doing a buddy read, hopefully either starting next weekend or the weekend after, of The House in the Cerulean Sea, which is, I'm like the late to the party on this one. But this shot up my TBR as well because Booktube, Amy from Booktube with Amy, she recommended this at the end of her Best of 2021 video. She read it at the end of the year and she said she really loved it. She gushed about it actually, and yeah, I can't wait to read it. I'm also going to be doing a buddy read of Redwall, finally, Brian Jacques, or Jacques as we would say over here in the UK, because I remember Hattie Jacques from Carry On. Anyway, I might be showing my age a little bit, but Brian Jacques or Jacques Redwall series, and this is a beloved fantasy anthropomorphic series that I've wanted to read for a very, very long time, and I've had this secondhand copy on my TBR for ages, and Gemma over at Gem of Books is going to read it with me. I'm very, very excited about that. The other thing that I'm super excited about and I made wiggle room for is I got approved on NetGalley for the arc of the next Michelle Harrison book. So you've probably heard me mention Michelle Harrison's Pinch of Magic series on here multiple times. I love it. It's one of the best middle grade fantasy series I've read in a long, long time, and her new one's coming out soon, Storm of Sisters. I just got approved for it, so I'm super excited about that, so I'm going to be reading that. So last thing I want to talk about is a book that I took advantage of in my wiggle room to make room for myself for the things that I want to read, that to follow my nose. I was on Libby placing holds on loads of things from the 2021 reading list of everybody that I've been watching, and this book came up, and it's Invisible Women by Caroline Criado Perez, and she reads the book as well, and I've only got it for another day, and I've got quite a bit of time to go on it, so I might not get to finish it, but I'll have to place a hold to borrow it again. But it's all about the gender data gap, and I'm listening to it. So the lack of data on women, social data, physiological data from medical studies, all sorts of things that disadvantages women around the world is just staggering. It's absolutely staggering. And I was listening to it, and it's all around, you know, the author does make a distinction between gender and sex. So I think it's all around the lack of consideration given to women's needs and lives and physiology. It's actually making me really angry listening to it. So, but it's a real eye-opening read, and things that I haven't even considered, like the issue of toilets and public toilets, which is a feminist issue, and it's just an issue for anyone who identifies as female. As we know, it's a huge issue for the female trans community, and it's a massive issue for women in countries where there are very few toilets for poor women to access, women who have to wait all day to go out and defecate in fields at night, and who not only run the risk of physical harm to themselves through holding on to their, not being able to go to the toilet all day, but then the risk of physical and sexual assault, and even like death, because there are predatory men waiting for them, watching these women and knowing to hang out in certain places. I mean, it's just a massive eye-opener, this book. So I'd highly recommend it if you're interested in finding out about how data and information, how powerful it is, and how certain groups, and in this case this book is particularly focused on women, how certain groups are disadvantaged by data being the default white male data. So yeah, I highly recommend that. If I manage to finish it before the library loan wants it back, I will do a bit more of an update on it. That's my reading ramble. It was a bit of a ramble. I hope it wasn't too rambly. If you think it was too rambly, just say so, and I'll go back to doing more specific TBRs, wrap-ups, whatever. I'm not TBRs, that's not me. If you did like this rambling nonsense, please feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. Please leave a comment. Have you read any of the books that I've got coming up? Do you want to take part in any of the things that I've mentioned? The equal rights. This is only going on till the 21st of January. And have you read any of the books that I'm planning on reading? Let me know. And hopefully I will see you again here soon. Bye.